Here we go for Bitcoin. This week is going to be a week that has a major event. Going to have the FOMC on Wednesday. So as always, market's very likely to move. So this is really a preparation for the end of this week to early next week. This is what I feel the most confident on and most important on, because we are setting up for yet again another one of these 20% or so signals that I do believe is going to have a resolution around some of those time frames. Typically does take about 10 to 14 days to play out on average, although there is a lot of variance in these signals. But I'm going to bring up this chart yet again. It is the daily volatility versus momentum chart. We've seen, what is this, 11 now? Yeah, 11 iterations just in the past year or year and a half, I should say. And we saw a few that were more recent over here, of which all have played out in that sort of similar manner. I've back tested all of these, as you can see right here. These are the last 11 iterations, and the signal essentially goes something like this. Anytime that we do see daily BBWP, which measures volatility, the dispersion of returns, get down to especially like 10 percentile or lower than that, the expansion phase from it leads to about an average move of about 20%. And the bias for direction on that move has been very accurately given by the daily stochastic momentum oscillator over here. And the reason why I love that is because we can actually, forecast what price action would need to be in order to, force across in the opposite direction of what it currently is. So out of the last 11 iterations, if we can pull it up over here, 9 of the last 11 iterations have gotten the right direction for the stochastic momentum oscillator, meaning that first volatility expansion, for example, like you saw on these green vertical bars over here, plus the direction on the stochastic momentum, has essentially given that next 20%, in some cases a little bit more, some cases a little bit less, move again over the course of, let's say, 10 to 14 days or so. Some a little bit more, some a little bit less, a lot of variance within that calculation, however. So in this case right here, as of right now, we can see that the daily stochastic momentum is very much actually vertical here and will not be crossing to the downside unless if we do see a daily closure below 27,750, of course. Now, obviously, this changes each and every passing day at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So when we do get the next closure, this number will, change basically. So we have to keep tabs on this until we get that first spike of volatility expansion. And again, I don't really expect this to happen. I think earliest would be Wednesday, and probably more likely to see it on, maybe Friday or early this next coming week, actually. Until then, it's all about the lower term timeframes. And honestly, I don't feel too compelled by the lower term timeframes right here. But again, we'll be keeping a keen eye on this because we've seen it many times before. And if we do see again that volatility spike plus it start to turn down and reject one of the control zones, that would be a very good interpretation that we are going to see major fall through within that direction. So in this case over here, what would essentially that imply as far as price action goes? Well, I've already done the calculations, and in this case, if we see it come to the upside, we're looking somewhere around about $35,000. So I'm actually going to mark that off on the charts just for posterity. So we'll mark it off right here. And if it comes to the downside, probably looking somewhere around about $23,000, which would actually put Bitcoin on a slightly new low. And at that point, extremely likely we start to build up some pretty impressive drives of bullish divergence on higher term timeframes. So, in this case, this setup is likely going to have another major setup after it to follow. I imagine, later this summer, if you will. So with that in mind, let's now go into the short term timeframes, which we can pull up over here. And this is going to reference CME for right now. And, it's the same range as before, essentially. We do see the 618 kind of getting that gap fill that we did look at from Friday, meaning that Bitcoin wants to come back down and fill the gap and then bounce back up. That's completely fine. But other than that, I really don't have strong opinions on the short-term timeframes that haven't already been expressed. In fact, over the weekend, my biases were certainly very much wrong over the weekend, which is why I don't really focus too much on the short-term timeframes. But in this case, it'd be the same thing. Look, above last week's high, essentially, I would be looking for Bitcoin to pop back up somewhere around about $32,000 to $33,000, and probably does start to march its way up towards the daily signal that we were looking at earlier. By contrast to the downside, the 618 right here, which is right around the gap, if we see any sort of a medium or especially higher term time frame closure below there, which is 29,400 or so, I would be, essentially taking the opposite side of that, looking for a nice move down, a continuation move down somewhere around the one spot 618, which is mid $27,000 territory. And then we probably see that volatility expansion, carry things onwards and forwards from there with bounces along the way towards that ultimate $23,000 target. What also is an in alignment with this is if we go reference daily stochastic momentum for CME here, which I definitely trust a lot more over spot, especially coming into the into Monday and Tuesday, even sometimes into Wednesday. We do see that the daily stochastic momentum is actually quite different than what we see on Bitcoin. Or sorry, not on Bitcoin, obviously this is Bitcoin, but on spot price action for Bitcoin. And what do you know? The daily stochastic momentum will turn down again with any sort of a closure below 29,500 and also remain within the bearish control zone. Again, this would be considered, at least in my opinion, a corrective signal over here if we do see a closure below there. So that would essentially be, back on over here, that would essentially be between the 0.5 and the 618, any sort of a daily closure below there, the probabilities of this playing out to the downside get increased massively. Until then, it's just a range play still. And well, the play for the last couple weeks here has been sell 31, buy 28, as Mr. Burgle has said several times in the Discord over there, which is good, man, which is good. Range trading is a thing to behold. It's quite beautiful. It's not very sexy, but it is quite beautiful. Anyways, other than that, in the short-term timeframes, do we have anything else to be aware for right now? Technically speaking, on the 6 hour, I believe. Let me just double check. We would have hidden bearish divergence in progress here if Bitcoin does come back down and specifically close below that mid $29,000 region. Until then, it actually does look like it kind of wants to make another leg up towards the top side of our, of our range here. Anyways, let's just go reference what the other stochastic momentum is showing as far as pivots on price action. 12 hour remains to the upside as long as Bitcoin's above 29.8. 6 hour is going to be flippy floppy here and actually down if Bitcoin does close below 30,168, which currently kind of dancing around. 4 hour is also going to be turning up above 3250, and hourly is going to be doing what? Is going to be turning back up above about 30,300. So ultimately, what am I getting from this when I see a lot of bifurcation like that between all of those timeframes? Not much. Probably some sideways and just testing out the old range here. But below 29.5 or so, let's say, on a CME daily closure, that's where I feel a lot more confident in calling a downside continuation move. Until then, to be fair, in the short term, it looks like it very easily take a leg up towards somewhere around last week's high. Other than that, though, I really don't have strong opinions on the short-term timeframes here. I think the big focus is going to be on, of course, the CME meeting on Wednesday, and then how these signals that we referenced over here play out from there, because that's where I expect to kind of get the initial etchings of resolution. Anyways, other than that, I should probably do some housekeeping things over here. And yes, okay, I should let you know about my Instagram. I have an Instagram account. It's in the link in the description below. Understand that. What? It's laggy. Oh, my apologies. Okay, let me actually readjust my camera. My Instagram account, yeah, what about it? There's a bunch of scammers over there. Be aware of that. And of course, I'm never gonna ask you to put your money into my secret trading account. I don't have one. I have my hands full trading my own account, of course. And then of course, also got a Bybit chill link as well, if you so desire, for some leverage trading exchanges. If you want to get wrecked, it's a great place to go get wrecked at, because they have the best liquidity for leverage trading. However, in a more sincere tone, I always want to be saying that, hey, you can work out your strategies for free on places like the Crown Trading application, like you see over here in the trading journal, which is in the link description below as well. Or pen and paper, or Excel, whatever it might be, whatever you decide, whatever you desire, and you can do it there. Get your repetitions in, test out your strategies without risking your financial equity. That would be, at least in my opinion, the right way to be doing it. And then, if you so desire, if you like the results, then perhaps consider one of those things. Other than that, I'll be signing off with that on that note, and hopefully that was helpful. And there you go for Bitcoin, sirs and zers.